Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'm here with Innocent today to speak about leadership in Africa. Thank you for joining me today, Innocent.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
So to start off, I know that you're an ordained priest in the Catholic Church, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So why were you interested in coming to ESCAR?
Well, probably I could give two answers or three.
Okay, let's hear them.
Yeah. One of the answers I could give is I'm from a war-torn country, Rwanda.
Okay.
And so, as a person who is interested in peace, I thought probably as medical doctors go to medical school and spend so much time studying a disease, I should equally look for a place to school and spend my time studying conflict if I have to work for peace.
Oh.
Equally, the military generals spend so much time in military schools trying to study wars and how to strategize to win wars. And so I thought probably it's a good thing to spend some time studying conflict in a beautiful school so that when I go to work for peace, I'll be really knowing how to deal with the conflicts. And also as a Catholic priest, as a Jesuit, I belong to the tradition of the order that has cherished education for many years, for over 500 years, the Jesuit educators. So I see myself as an African, as a Rwandan, valuing education, saying I can't tell youth to value education when I haven't walked that road. So it's good for me to walk the road and then I can do the talk. So being in ESCA was a place for me to say, okay, I can put my future dreams and desires in terms of working with the youth, in terms of working for peace, into practice. So that's what brought me to ESCA.
Great, and you're working on your PhD.
Correct, yeah, I'm working on my PhD. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you focusing your studies on?
I'm trying to focus on leadership, and in leadership, I'm trying to see the role of leadership in peace and reconciliation. So after the conflict, normally what comes next? Most of the time we cry about peace and reconciliation and reconstructions, but how do we get there? So, and the famous American author on leadership, John Maxwell, said that everything rises and falls on leadership. So I'm trying to examine that claim closely and saying, wait a minute, is it true that if we have a good leadership in a place, we are likely to have peace? And if you have leadership, bad leadership in a place, we are likely to have more conflict.
Is that what you found so far? Or?
Well, so far, that theory seems to be working.
Okay.
That probably the leadership somehow influences peace or discourages peace. And some leadership promoting more violence and some do not. And so I'm looking at this couple of theories of leadership. And I'm looking at great leaders like Lincoln, like George Washington, like Mandela, like Martin Luther King, like all the figures, most of good and bad figures in leadership, and trying to journey with them from their early stages of leadership and then towards the end, how they grow in leadership, what makes them the leaders they become, either transformational or charismatic or prophetic or situational or name it, great men and great women. So looking at all this and trying to see within the lens of leadership at the bigger picture, but also in the small picture if you want, looking at the micro level. What happens if you have a massive daddy at home or a massive mom at home? Mom who is abusive or a dad who is abusive.
Right.
So the home is likely to be really a home of conflict. It's likely to lack peace. So that level of leadership, you can easily bring it from top leadership at the political and economic to down family level of leadership. So I'm trying to...
You're studying all leadership, basically. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of leadership,
yes.
Pope Benedict resigned as head of the Catholic Church just
Correct. I loved him.
Oh, you loved him?
Yeah.
He just resigned a few weeks ago, citing health issues.
That's true.
Unfortunately, in places such as Africa, there are leaders who have vowed to die on the job.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
That's correct. What is your perception about these phenomena, and how do you think leaders can realize that they're not ordained by divine right to rule?
Wow, what question. What do I think about this phenomenon?
Yes.
I think I would look at it this way. Leadership, if I'm to take the example you gave of Pope Benedict,
yes.
16th resigning because of his age and health, and I think I would take that to be a good model actually, and a role model for the most of African leaders who feel that they have been ordained by divine
Right.
nature to be there for the rest of their lives. So when the Pope was resigning, he was saying, I've served this church for so many years, over 85 years, and now my health and age are failing me, and leadership is a service. I was here to serve the church, to serve the people of God, to serve the universe, and I'm growing weak, so I can't perform that service anymore. So it was wise for him to say, I can allow other people to carry this role of service. So instead of hanging there when you can't really serve, you're saying,
it was best to step
yes,
down.
I'm allowing other person who is capable of serving to do that. And I think looking at geopolitics in Africa, I think Benedict should be a good role model. Should do our leaders in Africa back home, a couple of countries where leaders still feel that they have been ordained by divine nature to be there for the rest of their lives. Probably they should humble themselves and learn from Pope Benedict and say, leadership is a service. And leadership is about making influence. So if you can't really make influence anymore, if you don't have energy to make that influence, you should allow somebody who is capable of making that influence, making things happen. And also a great man like Mandela. Mandela is another great man whom I love so much. When he was stepping down, he was saying, I'm stepping down. I don't want you guys to call me. I call if I need you. And for him, the sense of leadership was being a shepherd, which is a sense which he shares with Benedict XVI. Normally the popes are shepherds. So, and a shepherd, if you can't go out and look after your sheep, and then your sheep will be eaten up by the wolves and the hyenas. And so as a shepherd, if you really feel that you can't go out and you're a little bit getting old, and so you should get another shepherd to look after the sheep. And so I think taking from Pope Benedict XVI, taking from Mandela, I think that's really a good model. And yeah, and as a Catholic community, I think we have been so happy to receive a new Pope who has also so much to teach to the African leaders, Pope Francis I.
You're optimistic about his leadership?
Very optimistic. The Catholic community has been so excited. Most of the Catholic communities are excited. He's so humble. As a cardinal, he cooked his own food. He rode in a bus, took public transport to get to his office and back. He just lived a simple life. He chose to live in a simple apartment rather than living in his mansion. You know, it's that kind of leadership. That's the leadership we want to see in Africa. So if our president, those who feel that they have been put there by God to stay for the rest of their lives, I think they should look at these three men, Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis II, man like Nelson Mandela, and say leadership is about service. It's about being a shepherd. It's about looking after your flock. It's about looking after your people. It's about caring for them and loving them and walking where they are. So if you can't walk there, it's good to step down and allow other person to take the role.
Great, well thank you. Shifting our focus to Africa, because I know you're studying leadership in Africa.
Yes.
Do you applaud the peaceful election that happened in Kenya, and how much of it do you relate to leadership?
Well, I would say I've been happy. It's a mixture feeling.
Why is that?
Seeing the Kenyan community and the Kenyan population decide their own fate. This election was very controversial. As you know, the president and the vice president, both of them have been indicted by International Tribunal Court in The Hague. And yet the Kenyan people went ahead and elected them as their leaders. And I remember the first is prior to them being having their full victory, some of the Western countries had said, no, we are not going to really work with these guys if they're elected. We'll have a minimum contact with them. And here the Kenyan people saying, wait a minute, we Kenyans, we were there when the violence happened. We know who did this. And the justice, we have our own sense of justice, of which we know whom to condemn and whom not to condemn, whom to elect and not whom to elect. So I would see that as really good leadership, but leadership certainly not from the president himself and vice president, also from the ordinary people. saying we can lead our own country the way we want to be led. I happened to be in Kenya 2007 when the crisis broke out. And I would say it's hard to say only two of those guys were responsible, or four guys were responsible. And as Kenyatta, the current president, has been saying, he was not alone in that. And his vice president, he was not alone in that. So they have been saying, how come the ICC chose to pick on us and not the president and the prime minister? The president, I mean, Kibaki, or the prime minister, Raila. So they saw that that was really, there was no sense of justice. So the Kenyan people have spoke, and I think they have shown the leadership in themselves, and so I think I'm happy with that. And also with the Kibaki who accepted to step down, I'm sure he could have, like some of the leaders you referred to, he could have chosen to hang in for another 4 or 5 years until he dies, by saying, I want to respect the Constitution, I'll step down, I'll allow the Constitution to rule the country, I'll allow the new election to take place. I think that's was a good leadership he showed. So Kibaki, President Kibaki, as he stepped down, I'll give him high five. I think on leadership, this particular aspect of him saying, I'm willing to go, and I'm willing the Constitution and the Kenyan people to get another president, I think that could also be, he could speak to other African leaders who are of his age to tell them, you know what, I stepped down and nothing happened to me, and so you guys can step down. But probably another thing that I could add, most of the African leaders and leaders, when I refer to the president and their ministers, most of them, when they want to step down, they don't know how to step down.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have been having all these privileges, and then all of a sudden you're stepping down, they're not going to have them anymore.
Right.
So that's one of the fears. They don't know how to deal with that fear. So to what extent can we assure them or have good environment for them to retire? That probably might be a responsibility for African countries to figure out. And also some have their own, they have committed some of the, or they are being accused for committing some crimes, and they fear that if they step down, there might be some indictment, there might be, probably they might lose their security and they might be assassinated. So my sense, and I'm still doing a research on this, but my sense is probably we should, as Africans, come up with a certain amount of amnesty or certain type of amnesty to certain presidents, yes, or political forgiveness to certain presidents.
And then they'd be more likely to step down?
Yeah, so that we may assure them that if they step down, we are not going to assassinate them, or we're not going to arrest them and throw them to jail, and then so they can graciously go out and allow other people to live. So I'm happy with Kenya, and I pray that the new leadership in Kenya may be able to lead the Kenyan people where they want to be, and help their dreams to come true.
So where are you in your leadership on research? Can you tell us what you've done, what challenges you face, where you hope to go with it?
Well, that's a good question. I'm still at the early stage of my leadership research, but I intend to, keep my time and interest in it. So far, I have looked at almost all types of leadership, looking at all the theories that exist that I can find in the books.
What are some other theories?
Some of the theories that I've looked at is like the great man theory, the situational theory in leadership, the servant theory in leadership, charismatic theory of leadership, the prophetic, name them. So the transformational type of leadership, of which seems to be the current trend, and many leaders seems to be calling themselves transformational, given that many countries need transformation, either economic transformation, political transformation, social cultural transformation. And so I'm looking at this, all these theories of leadership, and trying to link them with peace and reconciliation and conflict, and saying, if we, for example, if you take United States of America, if we went through, if we went through economic transformation, what would be the impact? How will that look like?
Okay.
Will it add more conflict to the country which is already in a conflict with itself, given the economic challenges and the political division within the country?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm examining that kind of leaderships and trying to link them with peace and reconciliation, and looking at my own country, Rwanda,
Okay.
saying what might happen when my President Kagame steps down, what might be the scenario in which he can step down, what might be the conditions in which it will help him to step down, what might be the conditions of leadership that we can put in place that will help us to continue the beautiful thing that has already built without having to go back to the wars and to destroy them. So I'm trying to look at that kind of leadership, and my hope is to be able to, as a student of peace, to be able to write about them, get them out there, make people read them,
Mm-hmm.
teach them, interact with the communities. I'm also interested in community organizing. That's what I've been doing this coming summer.
What are you
God
doing
willing.
this summer?
I'll be traveling to Rwanda to work with an organization called PICO,
Okay.
People Improving Life Through Community Organizing. And part of what I'll be doing really is to try and create a leadership within the community, where the community can, if you want, you can empower them, or you can help them to discover the resources they have that will empower them to improve their lives. So that's what I'll be trying to do during my summer.
So how do you think your background of being an ordained Catholic priest has helped you understand your leadership research?
I think being an ordained Catholic priest has helped me in the sense that I'm not standing alone, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Catholic Church has produced the strong men and women at that level of leadership. We just mentioned the popes, but also we have so many pastors, so many bishops, so many priests who have outstanding skills in leadership and who have influenced the humanity, as a whole. So me as a Catholic priest, drawing from all that tradition and drawing from Jesus himself, Jesus was his inventor, if you want to say, of servant leadership, meaning a leader who is willing to put his life down for his people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming with that background in the leadership, and as I do my own research, I'm saying, well, I'm privileged to stand on the shoulder of these giants, and so being a man of my time, and it probably is a high time also I add my small contribution as we wait for a new generation that will come after me to, excel and have a privileged problem of standing problem on my shoulders. I'm standing on the shoulder of those who came before me. So as a Catholic priest, yes, I'm standing on that deep tradition, but also on deep spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So my spirituality as a Catholic it's just to love people and save them. That's all. That's, if you want to summarize our spirituality, that's what spirituality, loving people and saving them. So as a priest, I see myself as a leader.
Okay.
By a leader who is not there to be saved, by a leader who is just there to have people and save them.
Just serve them.
That's regardless where they are, regardless of their situations, regardless of the level of conflict they are in, the level of tension and the fears and anxieties and concerns, just meeting them where they are and leading them from there, collaborating with them at various levels where they need to be. So being a Catholic priest gives me that privilege of having that background,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that as a leader, if I'm called to step forward, I will not be scared, I will not be afraid. Other people have done it before me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be happy, I'll be glad to do it. So,
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today.
thank you so much,
It's
Catherine,
wonderful
and
talking to
blessings,
you.
and yeah, good talking to you.
I look forward to seeing your research and what you find.
Thank you so much. I look forward to my publication soon.
Great.
Thanks.